Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a White Lotus inspired makeup look. I finished season 3, I really loved it, and I especially loved Aimee Lou Wood's character. She plays Chelsea. I loved all of the super glowy but natural and effortless makeup looks throughout the season, and I especially loved the purple glitter eyeshadow look, and that one was on episode 5. I think that one is called Full Moon Party. So I just could not stop staring at the beautiful purple glitter on her eyelids, and just the entire makeup look in general looked so effortless but also very glam. I watched Matilda on Video's video on all of the makeup that was used on Aimee Lou Wood on the White Lotus season 3. I did also watch a few of the makeup artists' TikTok videos. Her name is Rebecca Hickey, so I'll try to link below all of the videos that I referenced, and I also referenced some articles as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is my first attempt at doing this makeup look, so we'll see how it turns out. But before I get into it, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it, and let's get into it. I don't have all of the exact products that the makeup artist used on Aimee Lou Wood, so I shot my stash and I did find some very similar products, so I did my best to find products that gave a similar vibe. So the first product that I'm going to be using is the Auric Glow Lust in the shade Selenite. I think this one is pretty similar to the Say Glowy Super Gel. I think that's what it's called. I've never tried that one before, so this one I think should be pretty similar. So I'm applying that to the high points of my face, and I'm using the rounded side from this mini Wet n Wild sponge. And I have been making some pretty good progress on the Auric Glow Lust, by the way. I know I haven't done my first project pan update, but I'm so excited because I've been using this a ton. I am really curious to see how much progress I've actually made. It feels like I've used a lot of the product because I have been using it consistently, but I just love this luminizer. And now that it's in my project pan and I'm really trying to work through it, I've been enjoying it even more than I ever have. For foundation, I'm going to use the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation, and I have this one in the shade 7. This one was used by the makeup artist, so I was really happy to have this exact foundation. And I do like this foundation, but it's not a favorite anymore. I feel like it's just a little bit too heavy for my liking nowadays, but it does give a really pretty glow and it gives some pretty good coverage. So I'm going to apply it with this BK Beauty N17 brush, and I am working the foundation into the brush. I've heard makeup artists call this technique priming the brush, and I've been doing this a lot. I feel like it applies foundation a lot more seamlessly and I can use less product. So I'm going to start in the center of my face. I'll go back in with a beauty blender, but I like the coverage with a brush. I do like how this foundation is looking on me today. It does look quite glowy, but I do like the coverage that I get. But I'm gonna press it in with my sponge. I didn't see any specific concealer being used, so I decided to just go with the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Self-Setting Concealer. This one is very skin-like, and I'm using the shade 30.5. And I'm going to blend that out with my BK Beauty A506 brush. And then pressing it in with my sponge. I did see that the makeup artist used the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder, and this one I have in the shade 2 Medium, which is a little bit deep for me, and that's really the only reason why I don't use this one often, and this is just a tiny little sample. So I'm gonna use this one all over my face, but to set the concealer and the T-zone, I'm gonna use the Beauty Bakerie Flower Setting Powder in Oat Translucent. And now I'm going to set the rest of my face with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Powder. And this compact is so tiny because it is a sample. So I'm going to use a smaller brush. This is the Real Techniques contour brush. And I'm just going to lightly set my entire face with that. I want to try the lighter shade in the future, maybe once I'm done with my Project Pan and my No Buy, because I really do like this powder. It does look really smooth on my skin, and I don't feel like it makes me look dry at all. But what I have noticed about this shade is that even though it doesn't look too deep in the pan, there's something about it, once it's on my skin for a few minutes, it kind of darkens a little bit. So I guess it technically oxidizes, but that looks so pretty over top of that Hourglass foundation. It did tone down some of the glowiness, but I can still see the Auric Glowless peeking through. So I'm really happy with the base so far. For bronzer, I'm going to use the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear Bronzer, and this is in the shade 300 Light Medium. The makeup artist used a bronzer duo from Victoria Beckham Beauty. I felt like the shade had a similar undertone to that bronzer duo, and it kind of looks like if I would mix those two shades, I would get something similar to this. So I'm gonna apply that with this Refer 05 brush, and this is a really good drugstore bronzer. It honestly feels like a high-end bronzer to me. I did see a couple of people on YouTube mention that this one might be being discontinued, so hopefully that's not the case, because this one is so long wearing and it's a really smooth powder formula. I really don't feel like I use this one enough, so I feel like today was the perfect opportunity to use this bronzer. Applying some to the sides of my nose and then along my jaw. For blush, I'm going to use this Rare Beauty liquid blush in the shade Bliss. This one does look similar to the Say Dewy blush in the shade Rosy, but I don't have that one. But I felt like this one looked the most similar to it out of the ones in my collection. So I put some of that blush onto my palette and then applying that with this e.l.f. stipple brush. It looks pretty subtle, so maybe I could build it up a bit more, but I kind of like it, especially since I'm going to be doing more of a bold eye look. But I love how this applied over top of powder. I don't feel like it looks patchy. I went ahead and did my brows off camera, so I used the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Wiz in the shade Ebony, and this pencil was used on Aimee, and then she also used the ABH Clear Brow Gel, which I don't have, so I used the Benefit 24-Hour Brow Setter instead, and I do really like this more natural brow look. So moving on to the eyeshadow, which for me is definitely my favorite part of this entire makeup look. And I'm gonna have to use a couple of palettes to recreate it because I don't have the exact products that were used. But I'm gonna prime my lids first with the Rare Beauty Eyeshadow Primer. I'm gonna mix the matte purple and pink from the Colourpop Pokémon palette. So these two right here. The artist used a colorful Viseart palette, and these shadows were the closest thing that I could find to that. So I didn't have anything exactly the same, but I figured mixing these two would create a similar look. So I'm gonna take this Colourpop E23 brush, and I'm gonna dip back and forth between both of those shades. And I'm gonna press that all over the lid. So gradually building up the color. I do want it to look very opaque. Maybe I'll use more of the matte purple instead, and then just a little bit of that pink. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit more similar. So I'm gonna take a little more of that purple over my left lid just to balance it out. So now that I have that all over the lids, I'm gonna take that same brush and just blend over the edges. She didn't apply anything to the lower lash line, so as much as it's something that I usually do, I'm gonna skip that. So dipping into the Love Language palette from Odin's Eye, I'm gonna apply the shade Gifts all over the lid. So I'm gonna apply that first as sort of a base, and I'm gonna top it with this glitter eyeshadow, and this one is from With Love Cosmetics. I have 5 different glitters in here, but I feel like this one is the closest to the one that Aimee wore, but this glitter formula is so nice. It does have a tacky base to it, so you don't even need a glitter glue. And this one is called Dazzleberry. The glitter that was used on Aimee was from Lemonhead, and they used the shade Violet Hour. So I figured applying this shade first will make the glitter that I'm going to use look a little bit more similar to that. Because this one does have more of a violet tone to it. So I'm going to apply that onto the lids. This is one of my favorite purple metallics from the Love Language palette. It has a really pretty, almost foiled finish. I'm going to take that same eyeshadow brush and lightly blend over the edges. I want to do that before I apply the glitter, because once I have the glitter on my lids, I don't want to create any fallout with the blending. Okay, time for the glitter now. I'm going to load up the glitter on my finger and apply it onto the lids. I love that these glitters don't create a ton of fallout because they do have that tacky base. It really does adhere to my lids, so I don't even feel the need to use a glitter glue. You could use one though, especially if you really don't want any sort of fallout. But what I loved on Aimee's character in the White Lotus is that she did have a little bit of glitter fallout on her face. And I thought that was perfect because it made it feel more effortless and more realistic. Because being realistic, who doesn't have some sort of glitter fallout whenever they use glitter eyeshadows? I know I always do. So I thought that was such a nice touch. I love that they didn't try to make it look absolutely perfect. So for mascara, I'm going to use the Rare Beauty Perfect Strokes mascara. I'm going to apply some lip liner next, and I'm going to take this Maybelline Color Sensational lip liner in the shade Totally Toffee. And I'm going to smudge out that lip liner. I don't know that I like this lip liner paired with the eyeshadow, but I guess I'll see once I apply some lipstick over top of it. So I'm going to apply the Merit Signature Lipstick in the shade Slip. Okay, I ended up removing that lip combo because I feel like it didn't match the eyeshadow look. There was just something off about it. So instead I applied the Tower 28 one-liner multi-liner in the shade Work of Art. And then I did dab on a little bit of that Merit lipstick in the shade Slip. And I do think it looks a lot better. I try not to apply too much product, and I really made sure to smudge it out. I also want to add a little bit of highlighter. So I'm going to take this Nude Sticks Nudies Glow in the shade Bubbly Baby, and I'm just going to apply that with my finger. So just on the high points of my face. I do really like how this turned out, although I don't think it looks exactly the same as Aimee's, but I do think the glitter is really pretty. But I love that I got to show my stash and attempt to recreate it, even though it didn't turn out the same. Let me know if you've watched The White Lotus Season 3 or any of the other seasons. I really loved Season 3. It started off a little bit slow, and I feel like that's the case for the other White Lotus seasons. I usually think it's a little bit slow and then it really starts picking up a few episodes in and I end up getting hooked. I feel like that's how it's been with the other seasons. So let me know if you guys have watched it and what you think about it. But I hope you guys have a good one and I will see you in my next video. Bye!